Hey guys, and welcome to the video for Section 5, the Russian Revolution. So we discussed back in video 3 of this chapter how Russia dropped out of the war in 1917 due to the revolution. This chapter we're going to go into detail as to what caused the revolution and the enormous consequences that followed. This is kind of a lengthy section, so we're going to break it up into 2 videos. Now, the terms Russian Revolution is a little misleading because there were actually 2 separate revolutions. They're referred to by the month that each took place in. First, we're going to talk about the March Revolution. This revolution was due mostly to long-building anger at Tsar Nicholas II. Now, Nicholas wasn't necessarily a tyrant or anything like that, but he was pretty unpopular. He refused to carry out reforms that people wanted after the Revolution of 1905, and he was a firm believer in the divine right of kings and that he had a right to rule over his people however he wanted. Now, his status improved a little bit when the war broke out and people became more patriotic, but it worsened as the war went on. He was viewed as being an ineffective ruler. He tried to inspire the troops by going to the front line. This backfired, though, since, as I just said, he wasn't a particularly inspiring leader, and he left his wife in charge in his absence. His wife was German, which probably wasn't the best move considering who Russia was fighting against, right? It's like, okay, let's go fight against the Germans. I'm going to leave this German lady in charge. So that didn't work out too well. On top of it, the Empress also kept as one of her key advisors this guy, Grigory Rasputin. Now, as you can tell just from the picture, Rasputin was not exactly mainstream. He was a monk who claimed to have mystical powers, and the Empress believed that he could heal her sick son. He was literally a crazy person, and the fact that he was in the Tsar's inner circle seriously hurt the Tsar's credibility as a leader. Also, a big reason for the revolution was anger at the war. In 1917, Russia was not as industrialized as the other major powers. And this lack of supplies and weapons led to huge casualties. Right? You look at how it stacks up compared to the other allies. They didn't have the weapons or the ammunition. Some soldiers didn't even have rifles when they were going out to the front line. But they just kept on sending more and more troops out to the front line. And this is not going to be good for morale. Additionally, there were large food and fuel shortages. Things were getting worse and worse. There were protests, there were riots, until finally in March of 1917, workers throughout the entire country went on strike. And then they also started to demonstrate, and the soldiers refused to fire upon them because they sided with them. There were widespread desertions in the military, as you can imagine based on what I just said. So finally, on the advice of his government leaders, both in the military and in politics, in March of 1917, Nicholas abdicated the throne, meaning he gave up the throne. Now, the Tsar and his family were kept alive, but they were put under house arrest. We'll talk more about what happens to them in the next video. A provisional government, here you just see a headline of the Tsar abdicating. A provisional government was set up, and the government tried to make some democratic reforms, but it made a very, very big mistake in keeping Russia in the war. So as the casualties from the battlefield continued, radicals started to call for more extreme changes. The most important of these radicals was this guy, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. He was born Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, but he changed his name to Lenin later on in life. He was born in 1870, and he grew up in a revolutionary family. When he was 17, his brother was arrested and executed for trying to assassinate the Tsar, which, as you can imagine, instilled a hatred of the Tsar within him at a young age. He was a hardcore Marxist, meaning he was a follower of the teachers of Karl Marx, who called for a worldwide rebellion of the proletariat, right, of the workers. We talked about him back during the Industrial Revolution. And so therefore he was a supporter of a socialist rebellion. He changed up some things, so that it would work better for Russia, but he did believe in an overthrow of the establishment. He came to lead a group known as the Bolsheviks, and the Bolsheviks called for radical changes to a more socialist system in Russia. Now, due to his views, he was forced into exile from Russia, and when the March Revolution broke out, he was still in exile, but following the revolution, he was actually helped to get back into Russia by Germany. Right, so he eventually returned to all of the crowds. And think, well, why would Germany help this? Well, they hoped that if Lenin returned, he would create trouble in Russia and disrupt the Russian war effort. So once he returned, he did not disappoint, and he set about stirring up another revolution. And this leads us to the second of the Russian revolutions, the November Revolution. So as I just mentioned, Lenin went full on into leading an overthrow of the provisional government. He led crowds with his slogan of peace, land, and bread. Peace referred to getting Russia out of World War I. Land meant redistributing land from the nobles to the peasants, and bread was literally feeding the hungry. The people got behind this slogan largely because of mistakes made by the provisional government. I mentioned on the first slide that the new government kept Russia in the war, which a lot of people hated, and the government also didn't do anything to address the grievances of peasants or workers. So Lenin, through these three things, is speaking directly to the people and giving them what they're calling for. Now, this made things a perfect time for the Bolsheviks to strike, and in November of 1917, the Red Guards attacked. These were armed factory workers who supported Lenin and the Bolsheviks. They quickly defeated the provisional government forces, who really weren't into fighting at that point anyway. And after they achieved victory, the Bolsheviks started to call themselves communists, and they proclaimed, here you see the Bolsheviks, and they proclaimed a communist state. They ended private ownership of land, and they gave the workers control of the factories and the mines. A new red flag with the symbols of the hammer and the sickle, right? The hammer used by the industrial workers, the sickle, a symbol of agricultural workers. This was now flown above the Kremlin in Moscow. This control by the people, unfortunately for them, was not going to last all that long, and this would not be the end of conflict in Russia. So we'll get into that with the next video, the final video for the chapter, and we're going to be talking about the Russian Civil War and the creation of the Soviet Union.